Hi, this is Jerry Seib of the Wall Street Journal with some thoughts about the death of Mark Felt. Mark Felt, known to most of us not as Mark Felt, former Associate Director of the FBI, but Mark Felt, aka Deep Throat, the main source for Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein as they reported the Watergate scandal, reporting that led to the book All the President's Men and the movie of the same title. If you're a Washington journalist of a certain age, which is to say my age, you came to age in the 1970s and you came to the profession then, and all of us, I think, were probably inspired by Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein and the reporting of the Watergate scandal. And Mark Felt, it turns out, was the source who made that all possible. You know, we carried around copies of the book. We rushed off to the movies to see Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman portray Woodward and Bernstein. And I think it was the idealism of that enterprise that drove a lot of us into journalism. But I think it did more than that. I think the Watergate scandal that Mark Felt made possible changed things in Washington in three big ways. It changed journalists' relationships with politicians in many ways. It created the use of anonymous sources in the way it's been practiced for the last generation. It also, I think, created an environment in which there was a gap between journalists and sources. I think journalists and sources, politicians in Washington were much closer. They fraternized more in the days before Watergate. I think Watergate sort of was a cautionary tale to those in journalism that you can't get too close to sources that you might have to get tough with down the line. It also changed, I think, the public's perception of politicians. It created what I think of as sort of the age of cynicism about politicians that has been enduring up until now. It made people skeptical of what politicians told them. It made them skeptical of the motivations of politicians. And it probably made people more prone to drive politicians out of office when they had doubts on those two counts. And I think the third thing and lasting implication of the Watergate scandal is it kind of drove political debates and political arguments into the legal system a little bit. We've seen a lot of that in recent years, the use of the legal system to try to adjudicate political disputes. I think that started with Watergate and the idea that people ought to go to jail when those sorts of things happen. It did happen in Watergate, it's happened a lot since, and I think that's changed the tone in Washington. So I think with the passing of Mark Felt, we can all remember a little bit more vividly what it was that Watergate did to change the culture around here in journalism in Washington, but I think also around the country. This is Jerry Seib with the Wall Street Journal.